Hey guys, it's Casey, and today I'm going to review Be the Beginning, the Netflix original series. There will be spoilers in this video, but they will be at the end, so I will tell you to click away. And so overall, I thought it was a really fun show to watch. While it didn't really handle the nuance of its themes all that well, this is only the first season, and the story is kind of like just getting started, so I can forgive that for this season. It was really like what they would call a page-turner, except no pages. Or I don't know what the equivalent is. I guess like I'm not really a person who generally binge watches, but I actually wanted to click on the next episode button every time an episode was over. It does a really great job with suspense and creating this creepy, like tense thriller-like atmosphere. The pacing was pretty good. All of that combined with the music and the art just made everything mesh together really nicely for that creepy vibe. And it also had a pretty satisfying ending, considering that it also left a lot of questions unanswered in this season, where I thought it was a satisfactory conclusion. I wasn't just like, what, you can't end it there? Because that happens to me a lot, but it did not happen this time. The other thing is that I think they had a satisfying ending, but they still managed to have a great cliffhanger in there, and I'm really curious to see the second season, so I will be watching it if it comes out. And in terms of the characters, there were a few that were pretty interesting, namely one of the two protagonists, Keith. He's pretty interesting. And the other character I thought was interesting is kind of spoilery, so I'll save that for later. But yeah, overall it was a fun show to watch, and I would recommend it. However, there were a few things that I didn't like, mostly because of the other protagonist, Koku. He's really boring to me, and I'll get into why in the more spoilery section. But only one of the two protagonists was really interesting. And the other thing is that the one romantic relationship that they had was really shoehorned in at the end and really forced. However, overall, I think it was a really fun show to watch. It has great action sequences, a lot of suspense. So if you like that kind of like mystery, sci-fi, fantasy, thriller genre, I don't even know what to call it, but because it kind of fits in all those genres, then this is a good show. Though, to you Spanish speakers, if you're immature like me, it will tell you that it is a Netflix original series every single time that you watch an episode, so that's great. Okay, so now we are in the spoiler section. So mostly in this section, I'm just going to elaborate on the other character besides Keith that I thought was pretty interesting, and then why Koku's not interesting, and why the ship didn't work. So I'm sorry if this section seems like overly negative, but I just didn't want to spoil anything in the previous section, and most of the good things I had to say didn't really require spoilers. So the other character that I thought was really interesting was Gilbert, though I do think they could have done more with him, so I really hope he comes up again in the next season. I understand that they had to save a lot of character information about Gilbert until the end, so that when it's revealed, it'll be more shocking, I guess, especially since they showed us before that he was friends with Keith for a really long time, like years. So I think that was well executed. Like I was saying before about the themes not being all that explored, is that the idea that some people are just born with a necessity to kill is kind of a shallow way to look at killing, I think. I guess they'll either explore that more or they're just going to leave it at that, so I'm hoping they'll explore more because I just don't think that's true. But, I mean... Then let me talk a little bit about the cliffhanger. So I thought Miyatsuki was like okay as a villain. I mean the Reggie one, not the actual Miyatsuki. But I'm really interested to see how they handle Kirisama in the next season, since like I want to see how he got from point A, where he was like so loyal to Koku that he was willing to die, to point B, where his goal is to kill Koku for his arm. But then Koku himself. So the reason I think he's kind of boring is that he's a little generic and has no personality other than being reserved. And then the other thing is that he relies too much on his backstory to be interesting. Like his personality is not interesting in its own right. Like for example, Keith and Gilbert, they're like interesting people, whereas Koku's not an interesting person. He's just a person who's had interesting things done to him, which might be okay if he was more of a side character, but because he's so focused on, having an interesting backstory is not enough to carry a protagonist. And like one might say, like, oh well, he has amnesia and that's why he has like no personality. But like we see that he's built a new life for himself. Like he has a job, he has friends. You know, he obviously has a hobby, like he plays the violin and stuff. So it's not like he has nothing to care about just because he can't remember his childhood. So just because he forgot that doesn't mean he should have no personality now. I mean, I understand if he might be questioning a bit, like who he is and things like that, but they could have delved into that instead of just giving him no personality. And that spills into the Koku and Yuna relationship, which is pretty boring because Yuna is basically the girl version of Koku. Like, they have a really similar, like, reserved personalities, and then, like Koku, she's not interesting in her own right, she's just had interesting things done to her. So they're both pretty generic, and then expecting us to just accept that they somehow got together after being apart for 10 years. Like, yeah, sure, they had crushes on each other when they were kids, but, like, most people get over crushes in 10 years' time without seeing that person. And I understand, like, oh, yeah, whatever, they had such a strong bond, but it doesn't mean it's romance. So the fact that they tried to, or that they just skipped from Koku saving Yuna from Minatsuki to them being dating already and, like, shopping together just doesn't really seem that believable. Or hopefully they'll give that relationship a little bit more depth if they're going to keep going with it in the next season. Yeah, that about concludes my thoughts on Be the Beginning. Overall, I would recommend it. While it did have a few flaws, I think it's still really fun to watch. So let me know what you guys thought about it in the comments, though, or if this is on your watch list or something like that. Yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you again in another video. Bye.